are entertainers of some.
Yep.
I would
Well,
say
it's an alumni center, right?
Yeah, you're right, it's gonna be an alumni center, right?
a huge percentage of the local media people are Emerson graduates, you know,
That's
Channel
right.
5 for news,
right.
people of that.
Yeah. My son Paul teaches there.
Oh, he does?
He's a professor there.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
good for
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah. He runs the civic engagement lab, and he's in the journalism department, but his specialty is media literacy. So,
We could use
Yeah.
more of that.
I know, that's right. It needs to be taught more in the schools, and it isn't.
Tell them to get on Friday night with Emily Rooney, with all the other media people.
Really?
There's a professor from Northeastern, there's a professor from BU, who both teach some form of
Media literacy.
print media.
Print me, okay, yeah. Well,
I'm expecting Glenn.
so it's after 7, huh? Are we live yet?
Was in the building.
He canceled his trip to Washington.
Just for
Yes,
us.
he did.
So, and Sheila,
I thought,
He figured the president had gone to Arizona, so he didn't have
That's
to
the
be in
point,
Washington.
Yeah.
Oh, this Glenn. I get confused when you say Glenn.
The other Glenn's not on this committee.
Little Glenn.
no, he's at,
now we'll give it another minute.
Ironic if they're having a meeting next door and this meeting is telecasted on the TVs in the room next door.
That's too bad.
it says that we're, I just got a pop-up message saying that we're live on YouTube,
Okay, oh, that's good, all right.
so. Okay,
Well, I think we'll start then, and we'll just,
Got a quorum, right?
oh, yes. We do, I'll just mark that Sheila and Glenn. Okay, if they come in, they come in. Okay, the hour being 7:06, I would like to call this August 22nd, 2007 meeting of the Charter Review Committee to order. I would like to advise that this meeting is being broadcast live by Chelmsford Telemedia. It is also being recorded for future broadcast. I would like the record to reflect that there are no media present, and there are also no audience present, so. Okay, having said that, as a formality, I'll call for public input, but as I just said, there is no public, so we will have no public input this evening. At this point, I would take a motion to approve our July 18th, 2017
Light.
meeting minutes. July 18th.
well, I know, one of the things I noticed is that the title is 7/18/17, but it says minutes of the Charter Review Committee meeting on 7/17. So there's some discrepancy in the date
See
of
what,
those minutes.
Okay,
I had that marked.
where do you see that? I'm missing it.
The very first line of the
Yeah. It should read 18.
Okay, so
So-
make that change.
Let's see. I am going to add it to my drive, and I will make the changes as we speak.
Okay. Anything else?
Anything else that anybody needs?
on section 310. The last sentence says there was no vote taken, we took it at a later date. I was talking about constable. Did we defer voting on it that night? I can't recall. I just want to make sure we didn't take a vote. That's all.
That would have suggested that we took a vote on the subsequent
Subsequent
meeting,
one.
which is the 8th, right?
You mean a prior committee meeting on the 8th of July?
Well, if we didn't take it on the 17th,
Right.
we would have taken it later, so that's.
18th, yeah, so.
You know, I'm not sure that's accurate.
I have it marked
Let me just,
that we didn't take a vote.
I don't see it on the 8th, though.
And that was item
310, I think.
310.
On the 8th, there's no discussion of 310. I'm sorry, there is. We said, on the 8th, we made a motion to approve the advisory language for this section. That would be the discussion about how to set the job description. We didn't want to put it in the charter, right? That's so we were giving the town manager and the police chief
Ah, okay.
to set the job description and pay and all that stuff. But that looks like it was the only vote we took on section 310. So we must have approved the switch for the constable some other time. I just want to make sure there's a vote in the minutes saying.
my notes say we did it on the 8th,
Okay, so when we get to the 8th, let's bring it up, all right?
August 8th.
Yeah, but
We're on the 17th. So when we get to review the 8th minutes,
Right.
Sam, let's make sure we look at
Okay.
that, okay?
All right. For a vote on August 8th. Okay,
There's a few small edits. Section 4.1, with all due respect to Dan, he's Mr. Burke, not just Burke. In the minutes, it refers to you as Burke. I think it should be Mr. Burke.
And where is that? What,
On
on the 18th,
on the July 18th, on the
Yeah.
section 4.1, first paragraph.
okay, thanks. I have Mr. Burke here, 4.1.
Oh,
The
okay.
committee discussed wording changes to the last minutes.
Maybe it's just,
Mr. Thorne made the motion.
forget it.
okay. Anything else,
All
Dave?
right. we're
Well,
good.
on 4.2, we talk about making a new paragraph to talk about the constable. I assume that will be in the minutes of 8/8, the subsequent minutes.
Yes.
Make sure it's there. That's all I had.
Anything else? Okay. Did we have a motion? I'm sorry, I didn't
No.
get it. Did we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I don't think any changes were made, right? So
Okay, but did somebody make a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, good, okay. Any further discussion on minutes
On
on the 18th?
section 4.2, I had, in the middle of the paragraph where it says that the committee's intention is that the conditions of service rendered by the constable should not change in any material way because of the change from elected to appointed. But the word "not" is not on the copy that I have.
And are you in the minutes?
Yes.
Whereabouts are you?
4.2,
Section 4, on the 18th of July?
yes,
July 18th,
4.2,
right.
4.2.
I don't see that.
right after constable. The second constable.
It's this third sentence in the section. Should be "the committee," not "they committee."
Yep.
Okay, the committee also agreed,
Yeah, you're right, Dan. I have a question mark after the word "not," or the language in that. Is that the
Yeah,
sentence?
because the word "not"
right?
was not there.
Right, and maybe it should be, right?
Yes.
I'm glad, yeah, I
all right,
Missed
put in "not," it should be
rendered by
there.
the constable should not.
Not change, right.
change. And that's what you said last night, too,
You did,
in your presentation.
I hope that's what I
you
said.
did.
Yeah, we were listening, we were all listening.
I'm glad.
So now the version I have says not in it.
No, mine
How did
didn't.
that happen?
I don't know, what,
Well, there was one set of minutes that she did over.
Yeah, so
And I'm
maybe
wondering
that's
if
what
it's
I'm
this-
looking at.
Okay,
It's okay, I'm saving them appropriately, so.
all right, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, so anything else?
No, not for me.
I'm all set.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, we got 7 of us here. You're abstaining? Okay. So,
That was the night I was absent.
Right, I was trying to think, what do you?
Wait a second. Fenway Park night.
okay, good. All right. All right, so. Now, according to my records, and if I'm wrong, I hope somebody will correct me, we have one other thing that we need to do in terms of taking a vote. And I kind of,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
are we gonna discuss the minutes from 8/8 also?
well,
Or what do you wanna do there?
are people ready to do that? I mean, they were just distributed yesterday, so,
I'd have to abstain, I wasn't here, so.
okay. So we can wait on
Yeah,
those.
yeah, it's fine.
So, actually, I've got to find my summary here that I've written. We need to vote, I think it's section 7.4. Okay. Let's take the paperclip off and maybe I can find it. Section 7.4, which is the definitions section, and I did, I did take a little bit of a liberty last night making the presentation. We hadn't voted this, because I think we were waiting, if I remember correctly, we were waiting for the definition of the word officer from town council, which I had in my possession, but I had not at that point forwarded it to the committee, so we said, well, let's wait until everybody has a chance to look at that, and then we'll take the vote. So, but just, in order to wrap the thing up, I mean, the sense of the discussion that we had was that that would be okay, all right? So I did include it in the presentation last night, so.
And in the presentation, it looked fine to me, but that,
Yeah, we were just gonna add.
Right, and that's pretty much what the attorney said, so.
Okay.
So, just to make sure that everything is going according to Hoyle here, we should take a vote on 7.4, and the definition of officer is as I presented last evening. That is exactly what was provided to us by town council, so. If anybody would, if we could have a motion to, I guess the motion would be to vote to add the term officer to the section 7.4 definitions.
Move.
Oh, okay,
Second.
okay, moved and seconded. Motion by Dave, second by Doug. And the motion is to add the definition, add the term officer and the definition to that section. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Are you abstaining?
I think I am, because I'm not sure if
Okay.
I meet that definition or whether I should be involved in it.
No problem with abstaining? One abstention? Okay, good. All right, I think that takes care of the voting situation for our business. So I would say at this point, unless anyone on the committee has anything else they would like to bring up with regard to what we gave to the selectmen last night, I'd say that our business is largely included in terms of the recommendation section. We did say that we would provide some further information by way of advisories and so forth, so that has yet to be done. But before I get into that, I would like to publicly make the statement that I am, and I didn't say it last night, I should have, and I apologize. I am beyond pleased with the way our committee has functioned. I mean, there's 8 of us here. I've sat on many, many committees in town. I mean, some are formal boards, but I've sat on a good number of these ad hoc study-type committees, and you always get a couple of people that, you know, they're just along for the ride. They don't pull their weight, you know, whatever the reason they're there. But that was not the case with us. I mean, every single one of you made substantial, substantive contributions to this committee, and I think we worked very well together. I'm very pleased. Everybody contributed positively. And I'm just very pleased with that, and I just want to thank everybody for that, you know?
Ditto. I would agree. I've sat on a lot of ad hoc committees that were somewhat not together, you say?
Well,
Well,
stems from the leader, right?
So,
it does stem from the leader, and having you said that, I think we could all agree that Sam has been an outstanding and
That's right.
exceptional chair.
Outstanding on this presentation.
Absolutely.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So,
Now, when do you want to hear the criticism?
oh. Listen, I'm used to
Get
it
choked up.
anytime.
It's so nice of you to volunteer.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. Yeah, there's a story behind that, but we won't go into that now, so, but anyway. I guess what I'd like to talk about now, and hopefully we can wrap this up, we probably need to talk a little bit about how you'd like to see the final report constituted and how much participation individual members would like to have in that. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to draft something. And really, I have the guts of it, most of it in my computer, because I've been keeping pretty good notes and other things, so. And there's some material that I think we should include from the prior commission. They did a lot of background material talking about, you know, the types of forms of government the towns can have and and the process that's used to make charter change, so forth. I'd like to include a little bit of information about that, just as a preface on the report, so. But if anybody has any opinions or ideas how they would like to see that look, I would like to have your input. We can talk about it now, or you can think about it, and we can talk about it at a future time.
Now, this is a report to this board
To the board.
of our recommendations and suggestions, so it's going to include what you said last night.
Correct.
You really didn't go in, and you did go into some depth on advisory.
Correct.
So do you envision it being an executive summary and then a more detailed report? Is that what, or do you just, maybe just a straight report with some addendums?
I think the latter, and some of that is a matter of style. And this is somewhat contrary to the current thinking, certainly in corporate America. I am not a big fan of executive summaries. I find that when you do an executive summary, nobody reads the report. You know, there are exceptions to that. I mean, there are times when I think it probably is appropriate to do that. But I don't envision a report that is so lengthy that people would find it burdensome. I would propose doing what you just said, the second thing you said. I also would like to include all of the, public input summaries. I did some extensive summaries. I'd like to put that in there. I think it would be good reading for people just to see what some of the comments were that were made to us.
Also, that's, a few times Glenn looked back at the prior report and gave us a sense of
Correct.
what was, and to that end, I think that's a good idea. So that next time, 10 years from now, whenever it is, when someone's reviewing what we did, they get a sense of what was happening at the meetings from the public. That's a good idea.
Okay, good. Now, we did talk about advisories, and those were identified the areas where we were going to give advisories. I've already gotten some input from Dan has given me something, and that is relative to the discussion that we had about selectmen input in, participation, I think it was. Specifically, they talked about selectmen participating in the union negotiating process. So that was I think that was the start-off point for that. And, you know, we had the extensive discussion, and we thought as a committee, maybe that isn't appropriate, but we also felt that some of the desire that it looks to us like the selectmen have to want to get more involved in that kind of a thing, and maybe more involved in the operational aspects of the town without, you know, crossing the line as defined in the charter, could be improved by improved communications, more frequency of communication, that type of thing. So that was the gist of the advisory that we thought we would draft. And Dan has given his ideas, and I would welcome other people to provide their thoughts on that as well. So in any of the areas where we said we would like to do advisories, it would be nice if any of you folks could just do essentially what Dan did, you know, just a short couple of
All the
paragraphs.
advisories are summarized in your presentation.
Pretty much.
Are there others or not?
No.
Well, if they are, they're minor,
No,
right?
I mean, they're called out to the extent that we said we will be providing an advisory to the effect that, okay, but you know, not any extensive detail.
I didn't get the impression that the Board of Selectmen really understood what an advisory was.
They'll
But-
understand when they get them.
But there wasn't, but then again, the purpose wasn't to have a discussion, but, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want them to overlook them.
No.
So how do we ensure that they don't?
Well, to that end,
Aye.
it was my intention as a committee member that to follow the BOS agendas, and when this does come up for review and discussion by the BOS in their scheduled meetings in the coming weeks and months, it's my intention to be there as a committee member, not to provide on the spot. I mean, I don't intend to stand up and try and guide the discussion or anything, but I think it's
Well, that's
incumbent
pretty-
upon us to be there to
That's pretty
provide
soon,
some
right? Because it's gonna
reference.
be in the draft warrant at the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah, it's.
And then the
It's
board has to
on the
vote
warrant
on it,
the
right?
11th, and then they're gonna, they'll make the recommendations
Right,
on the 25th.
For the next meeting, yeah, yeah.
But they don't need their advisories to act on the warrant.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
two-step process.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, that can be done in I mean, in my view, a report can be done relatively leisurely, but in any case should be presented before we're disbanded in December. I would like to have something done by the end of September if I
Shouldn't the
could.
report be done in order for the board to discuss how they're gonna vote on the warrant articles?
I don't think so. I think they can do that. I think they can do that on the strength of what we gave them last night,
Okay.
you know. I mean, because they're gonna vote on the 11th. Mike, is that correct?
I think the final warrant has to be there for them to sign.
Oh, they're signing the 11th
And then they'll make their
recommendations.
Continue to
recommendations on
discuss
the
afterwards, yeah.
25th.
Oh, 20, okay, so
I
we
believe.
we could shoot for the 25th, you know.
That was
If
only
we
a
could
draft.
have the report in their hands so that
Right.
they can discuss it and vote in support or not, I
Right.
think that's important.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do.
How do you want us to review the draft? Do you want us to be editors for
Absolutely.
you? And do you want each of us to give edits to somebody? Or do you want to have volunteers for editors? Or, I mean, we all should read it, there's no question about that. But if you, otherwise, you're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're going to take 7 edits that you have to incorporate, somebody has to incorporate?
That
I think
doesn't,
we've edited
that doesn't bother me.
pretty much quite a
That
bit
doesn't
of it.
bother me.
Well, there's going to be a lot of
I understand.
edits,
I understand.
not contextual edits.
Yeah,
Right, there's gonna be
Right.
some, oh, you didn't capitalize this, right? There's gonna be that kind of stuff.
You mean of all the changes we made, or the
No,
advisory
no, just,
now we're talking
no,
about?
his report.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'd like to back up for a minute.
sure.
Section 310, constable. I don't see on page 17 and 18
Are you looking at the
and
presentation?
19, I'm looking at the presentation.
Which I don't have. That's all right, you have it, right?
I have it right
Okay, good.
My question is, I believe the pitch was made by either the town manager or the police chief that this constable person would report to the police chief. This doesn't say that. And was it intentional not to be that specific?
We were,
Was it an oversight? I mean, I'm not criticizing
You mean
the
as far as
report.
the actual,
Who is the constable's supervisor under
Right.
the new regime? Is it the police chief
Is
or
it the
is it the
town manager who appointed him?
no,
the town...
How do you know?
Well,
The town manager, I think what they said was the town manager would be the appointing authority, and the candidates would be supplied by the chief of police.
It's in section 4.2 that we were gonna add the sentence, and included in this sentence is, "The duties and responsibilities of the constable shall be established by the town manager and the chief of police, subject to any state law, or Chelmsford bylaw, and/or regulation." So,
Yeah, but who is the constable's supervisor?
I would imagine that the bylaw or regulation, which could be established.
Yeah, that would be, I think it's kind of implicit in the sentence
I
there.
think it needs
Yeah.
to be clarified.
so that, yeah.
Okay,
Because right now, the constable is elected, so doesn't report to
He
anyone,
reports
correct?
to himself
Right.
or to the
So
population, yeah.
in the new organization, the constable has to report to somebody. If for no other reason he needs permission to take his vacation, right? I mean,
Well, I think, you know, when Sam presented last night, one of his reasons for, arguing for this particular change in the charter was that the constable would work more closely and report to the chief of police because the constable does have a police power. Am I correct? And can act as an officer of the law at times.
yeah, I did say that, but I think Dan's point is
So-
it doesn't,
Right, so
Basically
that's what I'm
reflect
trying to
that in
say.
the
It's
language,
not
right.
reflected
Right.
here.
That's
Are
not-
we, is the
no.
assumption that the bylaw is going to say that? Or, and if so, how does that get rewritten or written or created? Who does that?
well, I think we wanted this to be general, but I think it's a very good point. I think it should be mentioned in there, that the police chief will be this supervisory person.
in my mind, the intent is that the police chief would manage the day-to-day activities of the constable. Now, it's a little odd that the town manager would appoint the constable, but the constable would take his direction from the police chief. That's a little unusual. But you're right, Dan, I think we need to be, because it's different, we need to be clear in the charter.
okay.
When Chief Spinney came to, I'm having a little mind block with this. When he came and spoke with us about his proposal for the constable, was he the one that suggested that the town manager appoint the constable from 3 names? Or was that the town manager's suggestion? Because it seems to me that if the constable's going to report to the chief of police, and the chief of police is going to manage the constable's activities, then the chief of police should really be the appointing, or does he not have the
I
authority to do that?
thought the intent was the chief of police would provide the town manager with names,
Right,
and the two of them would discuss it together, but then the town manager would make the appointment.
okay,
Pretty much,
okay,
that's accurate, yeah.
all right.
All right, so what would you like me to do there? I mean, I can do an addendum to this particular section and send it to the board and add that language, specifying that, that the intent is to have the constable report directly to the chief of police. Is that okay?
Oh, that's
Yeah, okay.
fine, I think.
And that would be But where would that relationship be described? What section?
Is that 4.2?
It's mentioned in 4.2.
4.2,
So-
but 4.2 is powers of appointment, not power, not,
But we were adding something that said that he would appoint the constable, and
well, it says the duty, maybe you're right at the end, the duties.
I think it's appropriate to put it in that section as a rider.
4.2, the duties and responsibilities of the constable shall be established by the town manager and chief of police, subject to any state, et cetera. And then another sentence that says, what's the right term? The constable
report.
shall report to the Chelmsford Police Chief? Is
Yep.
that all you need to say?
Right, that's good enough.
In relation to daily activities,
No, just report.
just report.
I think is enough.
So should I put it on my slide? Do you want me to add it here? This is our 4.2 powers of appointment, and this is the.
Yeah, why don't you do that, and then just send me that slide,
Okay.
and then I'll make
and-
the change. Right.
Okay, can you just say that again? Sorry, I was trying to find the slides. What did we say we were gonna add? Town manager, subject to any state, do you want me to?
I would simply start a new sentence, and I would say, it is the intention of this provision that the constable shall report directly,
I'll fix the error.
shall report directly to the chief of police.
And I'll capitalize that. Okay,
So,
great.
just to string this along a little more, I don't remember where we create a hierarchy in the charter where we say, cabinet level positions report to. The charter doesn't specify reporting structure?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's implicit in there.
Well,
Yeah.
And-
Well,
and
other than
I-
police and fire, I think Paul establishes the reporting structure as town manager, right?
Right.
Well, in that very section, powers of appointment, there's really no language at all about reporting structure.
Well, that would be left up to the personnel committee, wouldn't it?
They have that,
What-
I don't think they have that authority.
I think we can add it and they can sort it out, when it comes, when we, actually, that'll be Mike's job when he does the warrant, so. But,
I mean, other than the constable.
I don't think it does any harm to add it. I don't.
Well,
Even though
under the-
it may not be consistent with other,
What does it say under the town manager's responsibilities? Does it talk about organization? Where is it?
Supervise, administrative
well, under
duties,
the board,
administrative
under
powers.
section 3, Board of Selectmen, powers and duties, it talks about the fact that the Board of Selectmen has the authority to appoint a town manager, so.
No, but under
He
the,
meant
under
town
the town
manager's
manager's, he's got supervise.
Yeah, Oh, okay.
Appointment power.
Under supervise, it must be organization, right?
sure.
I don't know if
Yeah,
it says
That entire section we reordered, right, right. So,
It doesn't hurt to have it in there.
no,
They can take it out if they want.
right. I mean, that was really the essence of what I was saying last night, and I just try to make it clear. The selectmen understand it, but I'm not sure people watching at home fully understand that, we really don't have any power or authority except to suggest and recommend, and it's up to them how they want the specific language to read and so on and so forth, so,
I think you made that very clear.
yeah.
So, section 4.3A, administrative powers and duties, to supervise, direct, and be responsible for the efficient administration of all officers appointed by the town manager and their respective departments.
That's organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he could appoint him and say, you're reporting to the
Yeah.
police chief.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Respective departments for the town manager, yep.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, for heaven's sake.
Oh,
Guess
Made it
not.
worse, Dan, made it worse. An eclipse.
With my
That is,
hand
that is no reflection on your last comment.
Certainly hope
Okay.
I think telemedia could have control.
I don't
Won't be
know.
the first time.
Dave, you watched the meeting last night? It was, I guess, the first night of high definition. How did it look?
Yeah, it was much clearer. It
Was it
has,
much clearer?
historically, it's been pretty fuzzy.
Yeah, okay, good, good.
Yeah, they have the new
They also moved the cameras. They
And
got a
they
camera
have-
that looks right at the podium too, which they, years ago, I
Do
don't
they
think
have,
they did.
do they have a split screen type thing now?
Yeah, they had,
Yeah,
they
they
were running
did.
split screen
And
last
it's,
Oh, were
a-
they?
and the picture
Okay.
was much wider.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah.
Boy, they've really, I mean, nice comfortable chairs, high definition TV, I mean,
A big budget.
and a big budget, right.
Well, this
there
is
you
a
go.
huge help, that, I mean, all these months we've been here squinting at the,
The first thing
Oh,
Valerie
great.
said last night, I walked in, she said, sure. We're
Now
done
we-
now, and now they have this big screen, isn't that nice? That was funny.
right,
So Dan, did
Yeah,
yeah.
did we
yeah.
address what you wanted to address? Good.
I think we're all set there. Okay,
Let's go back to your report.
okay,
What's wrong with this?
nothing.
You mean as the report?
Well, you
I
know,
think it just has to be,
Yeah.
use this as the table of contents,
You know,
perhaps.
okay,
getting to
talk
something.
about
I
that.
wouldn't
If you want,
this.
if you want to shorten the work, that's fine with me.
I wouldn't spin this into another document.
No, I
No,
wouldn't.
what I would do maybe
I wouldn't do
is,
that.
where we didn't act on a section in the report, I'd say section ABC, no action.
Exactly.
Section DEF, no
Just,
action.
just add those things.
So it follows right through the charter.
Just the way I had the voting summary.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was my intent, really. And to not, you know, I reread, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I reread the last Charter Committee Reviews report, which, excellent report. I mean, very detailed, but, and I'm not criticizing any of the work there, because it was top-notch, but I thought it was a little too much. I thought it was a little too long. And maybe part of that is because that's the first time the charter had been reviewed. But but my sense of, in reading that was, you know, I want to incorporate some of this, but I don't want to make it as long as.
Sam,
as
it's
that
human
was.
nature to be afraid to have too little. in a
I
report.
understand. I understand.
Not me.
Good for
I,
you.
I,
Good for you.
I try to keep things, I like to have things as short. I mean, I
Less
was.
is more, they say, right?
Yeah, I went home last night and I was appalled when my wife said, you know, that was 26 minutes, and I thought, oh, God, you know, that was way too,
not bad.
that was way too long, you know,
No.
but I mean,
That's bad.
It's on
yeah,
the short side for
I
committee
thought it
report
was
outs.
gonna be longer.
I think
when you
did a
saw the
great-
slides, yeah,
I
yeah.
think you did a great job. So here's here we are talking about condensing things, and I'm just gonna throw this out there and see what you think. Do you think so we've given the Board of Selectmen the sections that we have made changes on, are those sections that we feel is necessary to bring to their attention with some commenting? Am I correct?
That's what the president, right?
So do you think we should include the rest of the sections and say, and when we say no change has been made, so that they see that section in front of them and they read it and say,
You just
You mean you mean
restate the charter?
redundant?
Restate the
Ooh.
charter?
yeah, no, is
I
that
don't think we should
redundant?
take
Is
the
that, no, huh?
I don't think that's
Just,
needed.
that's not necessary. I mean, I just thought I'd throw it out there because, you know, just as a, here's what the charter says, and we've decided not to make a change.
Well, I think,
I can see the argument.
oh, yeah,
this
absolutely,
language.
absolutely, but, if I follow the format that I use for voting summary, the sections are called out by title, okay? And I think in those cases, where we make no change, you know, that's sufficient, and in the, as I did in the presentation last night, on those sections that were particularly of interest to people or where we had a substantive debate, include just a very short summary of what that debate was, you know.
And the sections that are important to the individual selectmen, they know the section.
Oh, I hope so, yes. I mean, you absolutely have to talk about anything that they brought up in public comment, you have to discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing, so,
Okay.
yeah. So I would add that. And then, as I said before, just a little bit of history maybe, but not to go into that too extensively. And then I would add appendices to the report. Summaries of the public input, some of the research that was done, that kind of thing. So you add that on so that if people want to look at it, they can, but it's not an integral part of the report. So if they won't feel compelled to look at it if they don't want to. But
I
I
reference the previous report.
correct. Yeah, and I would just like to have that available for people, so. So those are my thoughts. So if there isn't anything else, I'll get started on a draft. And to Dan's point, I think probably the guts of it will be essentially the presentation that we did the last night.
You've done so much good, why do it over?
Yeah, boy, I'm right there with you. So, and I'll try to have something out within the next couple of weeks. So, having said that, do we want to talk a little bit about meeting schedules in the future?
Could I just bring up?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I alluded last night that I'm going to be working on the draft of the warrant articles for the charter with Paul Haverty, the new town council. And I'd already put together one article which would deal with the changes for the constable. So there'd be the deletion of 310 and the additional sentences at the end of 4.2. I'm not sure if I'm going to put those together, because if you're going to vote for one, you're going to vote for the other. Well, not necessarily. Somebody might say we eliminate it and change it to somebody else appoints it. But
You never know with town meeting.
for drafting purposes, I was going to put the constable together. I wasn't sure if there was anything else, any other substantive change that we wanted to call out separately. Otherwise, my intent was to group all of these ministerial changes where we put things in quotes or add an additional word, we change policy to regulation, all of those in what's been referred to as an omnibus article, which that would be, upon approval of town meeting, sent to the legislature for approval as special legislation. That way, it could be amended in the charter without having to put all of that language on the ballot. And the only reason, having discussed that briefly with council and the manager, would be if we put all those changes on the ballot, we'd probably have to print maybe a ballot with two pieces. Then there may be voter confusion, where if we just limited to, we're thinking of deleting the constable, are you in favor of adding the following to either eliminate the constable as an elected position? It'd be easy for the voters to see. So that one we would put on the ballot. But I'm just asking, is there something else that, anybody wants to pull out?
Mike, step back for a minute. That's just the constable change. Does that go to town meeting and then on the ballot?
Yes, anything we do has got to go through town meeting, but
Okay.
we can then, the warrant
Right.
articles
Then-
can be drafted such that if we approve it at town meeting, without any reference to the special legislation and sending it to the state legislature, it would go on the spring ballot.
Okay. And the second, so your recommendation for two articles, I think, makes sense, because there's only one thing that's of substance.
Well, there may be a second thing.
What's the second one?
Oh, the audit?
We're
That's not-
changing the election procedure on the writing candidates. And
Delete that section. I would recommend,
I remember reading somewhere deep in the bowels of election law that changes to how you elect people in town might need to be.
I would recommend making an article for that purpose as well.
So this has to go to the Board of Selectmen first have to approve
Yes.
right? And then it goes to town meeting, and then it goes to the ballot. So it's kind of like 3 steps,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
For those substantive changes, so Mike is saying, in those situations, he'd have an article or two, and then all of the housekeeping changes, which is, 90% of what we're
Right,
talking about here.
right,
Let's change this word, change that
Can
word.
go on
How
one
about
article.
Sheila's point? Is the auditor every 3 years? Is that more than just,
That's not but that won't, that's not a
Isn't
charter
that an
change. That
advisory?
would be that's an advisory.
okay.
We're not
Yeah.
talking
Oh.
about
So-
changing charter language there.
So it's the election of, or the appointment of town meeting reps that aren't elected, is that what it is?
No, it's the actual election.
Yeah,
Writing
we're talking
candidates
about-
Writing
less-
candidates.
Yeah, because right now they have to have 10 votes. And we're saying, let's take,
Bruce, I think you're right.
yeah, let's take that out. It's hard enough to fill these positions as it
Right.
is without requiring that we,
Right.
that was the discussion that we had, so. So you might want to,
It's
might
not
wanna take-
actually in our charter, I think it's something I saw in election law in the state constitution.
So, no, but I thought we just said we want to pull that out as a separate
what section is that?
Where was that?
section.
For what? Sorry.
The voting.
Elected town officials.
Let's see.
I can't believe I didn't bring my presentation with me.
Town manager, do you have, what section is that for the voting?
2-3.
2.
2-3, okay,
All
so
right,
section,
so here it is here. I
okay.
have it right here.
Okay. Okay.
So here it is here.
Here is the, on 2-3 is the write-in? No.
2-3C was the issue of the 25
Candidates.
signatures.
Yeah, candidates for
Down
reelection. But
there.
where is the write-in section? Where we deleted the need for,
Yeah, I'm not finding that here. This is,
There it is. 25D,
yeah.
5D, Delta,
25 Delta.
filling vacancies. Yes.
Yeah, and the struck out, the strikeout section.
I think you alluded to that last night.
Well, I was also, wasn't sure whether or not we wanted to call out the issue of the incumbents, the
Mhm.
3C, I think it was. The previous charter committee, by the time the warrant was done, there's probably well over a half dozen articles.
Right.
So, I don't think some of these will slow down town meeting by any means, some of these candidates for reelection, but I think they're a little bit more than ministerial, so.
Why don't we go through your presentation and
I have no problem, I've already
determine
actually,
the ones that are more substantive?
so just so
Wait a
you
minute.
know, what I've done is for every slide, essentially for every section, I've already written a kind of a draft article,
Okay.
which would be the one that goes to town meeting, then on the ballot. And then I had, in parallel, started working on the omnibus. So depending upon which way people wanted to go, the work is pretty much done. I just wanted to get some guidance from my fellow committee members before I put these drafts in the hand of the town manager for submission to the Board of Selectmen. So I wanted to make sure I was on the same page with everybody else here as to which should be the key ones pulled out and which should be ministerial changes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, certainly the constable. And I would suggest 25D.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would be, those would be,
That's the
my-
write-in. But
those would be my two.
And 23D is,
How about, how about 2-3C?
yes, that's the one I just mentioned.
Right.
that-
And then 2-3, then 2-5D, that's filling a vacancy.
23C, which is the ad.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that should, yeah, I think that should be added too.
The other vacancies are more editorial than changing words, they're not,
Sorry.
So would you propose 3 articles?
Oh,
well,
we can keep going if somebody, something jumps out at somebody else, but
Okay.
those are the ones pretty much that I had.
All right,
Thought
so
about.
we have that one, so we have 23C and 25D,
D. Yep. Oop.
and then the okay, so anybody else wants to contribute to we can keep going if you'd like.
yeah, well, how about the committee to search for a new town manager? That's different. Where we wanted one we wanted representatives from the Board of Selectmen and representatives from the town at large. Is that more than just editorial? It's
Right here.
4.1.
Yeah.
Section 4.1.
Shall include the members of the Board of Selectmen and residents. I'm just going off the top of my head.
You think that should be pulled out?
It's a
Alright.
separate,
You think
yeah,
so?
it's more, to me, it's more than just editorial.
It-
It's a change in substance.
Could be viewed as a change in power structure. You know.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up. I see your point, Dave. I mean, I guess I really didn't think that substantively about it at the time that we were talking about it in committee. But that is a,
Because without that, it means the Board of Selectmen have to have, couldn't make the search committee 100% selectmen. That's what we're effectively saying.
Well, but if they're
Correct.
appointing, they wouldn't.
No, but the
Anyway.
way it was written, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint a screening committee to assist. Anybody could be on the screening committee.
exactly.
What we're now suggesting is it should be at
Right.
least a representative from 2 constituencies.
Yeah, this specifies a minimum requirement that they have to fulfill. And, you know, I guess I really didn't think in terms of, boy, that's a real major shift, if you will, you know? But I guess it is. Because you're being very, very specific as to what that screening committee has to contain, what the components are. Whereas before, it wasn't specific.
Or the definition was made by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was, you know, whatever they felt whatever that particular board
Right.
felt at the time they wanted for a screening committee. And I guess when we talked about this before, we felt, really, we don't want to give them that much latitude. They should be compelled to include themselves and town residents as a minimum, is what that says. I don't know. What do you think? You think that should be called out separately in a separate article?
Well, I think it says a lot about how this committee
Yeah.
thought about
Yeah.
town.
It shouldn't be incorporated in another warrant article. It should
Well,
be by
to
itself.
your point, that's more than a housekeeping article.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And
Easy
then-
enough, I already have it.
All right, Mike has it.
I'll
Okay, so
bring
you
up
want,
another one.
let's add that.
4.5.
4.5.
Vacancy in office, where we add in an additional 6-month term. The appointment of the acting town manager shall be for a term not to exceed 6 months, and then a renewal not to exceed an additional 6 months. We added that.
Okay,
And this, I'm gonna have to work with council how we wanna do it. Both the deletion of 310 and that change of 4.5 needs to be coupled with the change in order. So I would do, because you're gonna touch 4.5, edit it, but we also wanna make that
we're
4.6.
gonna reorder the,
Yeah,
yeah,
I-
okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty tricky, isn't it?
The reason, it may sound silly, but if I put the flipping of the order in the ministerial
Right.
article,
Right.
but they change or don't change as a substantive one,
hear
you
you.
don't know if you're getting as amended or, you know, so. So.
Trust your
I'm gonna-
judgment on that.
yeah, I'll-
Who talks to these warrant articles? You
No, he's
or
gonna,
the selectmen?
You mean at town meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, well, since you brought it up, let's talk, Mike and I have talked a little bit
Is
about
it-
this.
They're not our warrant articles, are they? They're the Board of Selectmen's warrant articles.
Well, we thought,
Whose name's on them?
well,
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
the understanding would be that these would be brought to the Board of Selectmen. In the past, they were submitted by the Board of Selectmen, but oftentimes the manager speaks on behalf of the
Yep.
Board of Selectmen. Having been on the committee and being tasked with drafting it, the manager has asked me to speak to them, so to get up and explain. So the thought process or the strategy
Sure.
going into town meeting would be, Sam would get up and give the presentation, explain why, and then I would get up
Very
and-
brief.
and then follow him and
Wait.
introduce the articles and try and answer any of the technical questions and the.
That's fine.
Right.
You mean not 26 minutes? Is that what you mean?
It will be along the lines of the presentation I did a year ago. I think 5 minutes. Okay, just, this is who we were, this is what we did, and Mr. McCall has the floor. Okay, that's pretty much how I envision it, so.
I'll be home by the time you get to 26
I'm
minutes.
sure you will be. Okay. Does that meet with everybody's approval? Does that sound like a reasonable approach? Okay, good. Okay, so we left off on 4.5. Okay, anything else? That's an advisory. The audit's an
The
advisory.
audit's an
The
advisory.
audit's
okay.
an advisory.
Definitions, no.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Anything, anyone else? So we have, just make sure I have this accurately. I know Mike has it.
23C, 25D, 310, 41, and 45.
Okay, right.
I think that's great. It's not gonna confuse the representatives. It's not too many
So
to
those will be
digest.
separate, 1, 2.
Mike, do you mind saying those again? Sorry.
Section 2-3C,
Yep,
25D,
Yep.
310, 41, and 45.
Okay, that's 5.
thank you.
That's doable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
And then the rest of it will just be lumped together
As
as
in-
minor, yeah.
Right.
Language change, okay.
Perfect.
And you
Which-
have this, do you need my?
Which comes
copy?
first, the language change or these, when you present, when you,
My thought would be to go through the substantive changes first, and those would be written such that they would be going on the ballot in the spring, and then explain that the rest of them in that last article would be submitted to the legislature as a special act, bypassing the ballot, so to avoid voter confusion, but it's just the ministerial changes that we've highlighted. And the
Right.
one thing with 310, I haven't decided, and I will consult with council, is whether or not we shift up 311 and 312 to be the new 310 and 311. I mean, we've kept some things in there for historical perspective, so I don't know if we want to say in 310, delete the following section and just leave a footnote like they did with the sewer commission.
That's why I did it the way I did in the presentation. I left it intact, and you remember I talked about that last night, so, yeah, I'm comfortable with you having that discussion with council.
Anybody have?
Consistent with state constitution
Yeah,
procedure. To leaving that section.
leaving the
as
section.
Yeah, so.
Deleted by
Yeah.
committee act.
Be interesting to, find out,
Otherwise, there's references that would
we'll
all
find
have
out
to
what
be
Mr. Haverty, get his opinion on it, so.
The added benefit to this is it might make the other changes flow through the state legislature easier. You know, if we err on the more conservative side of taking more changes to the electorate, then what we have left might go through easier at the State House.
Yeah, and the changes are such that, they're not earth-shattering. Okay,
So just put a footnote, deleted by town meeting,
yeah.
annual town meeting.
Anything else? Okay. All right, so do you want to talk about, again, we talked a little bit about the report, the structure and so forth. I'll start working on the draft. Let's see, this is August 22nd. Try to have, what was the date for the selectmen? Was it the 25th?
They're gonna.
That they're gonna actually recommend?
11th and then the 25th, is that what you said?
They're gonna,
That's what we discussed last night, that the final version of the warrant will be out on the 11th, and I believe at their meeting on the 25th is when they were gonna make their recommendations. that
Okay,
correct?
so they're gonna do recommendations.
So you want to, you need a meeting to vote to submit the report, right? Is that all we need?
I think so. I think so. And then any cleanup things. So we've got the 22nd. Labor Day is the 5th. Well, I want to leave some room here.
I have a conservation meeting on the 19th.
Well, I could try to have something by the 12th.
Do we have to remain in the constraints of Tuesdays?
No?
I don't. I don't know about, and I'm not sure that meeting has to be televised, if that's a problem for telemedia. I mean, you know, that would be essentially just an action, a couple of action items that we have to take, so I wouldn't be terribly concerned if we weren't televised. So, selectmen aren't meeting, the selectmen are meeting on the 11th and the 25th. Would it be possible for us to meet on the 18th on Monday? Is that a possibility for people?
Okay for me.
Yes, that's fine.
Everybody, so can we do that?
I'm teaching a class that night.
Give the kids a night off. No.
It's at the library.
Oh, it's a library. All right, so that doesn't work for you.
Well, if you have a quorum, though, it's okay.
You know, I'd like to have everybody here if we could.
Dave has conservation on the 19th.
19th,
How about Wednesday, the 20th?
that's fine with me.
That okay with everybody? Okay, I think that,
September?
September, that gives me enough time. I mean, if I can't get a draft done by then, then I should step down from the committee, so.
Don't drop the ball now.
No, I'm not gonna, no. So, yeah, I mean, it's mostly done, so we just need to do that. Okay, so let's agree to meet on the 20th. I'll notify the town clerk and telemedia. Same time, 7 o'clock. I have to make sure that we don't have to meet, we don't have to meet in this room, so I'll just, you know, if we can,
Right.
Wednesdays I'd be surprised if there wasn't already a meeting scheduled for
Might be
room 204.
planning board.
Yeah. So I'll just ask the town clerk, just stick us anywhere, you know, that's fine. Okay. 9:20. Okay. Anything else that we need to talk about?
So we need to get to you our thoughts on advisory.
Yeah, as quickly as you can, you know, and it doesn't have to be, like I said, Dan gave me a couple paragraphs, and the substance was there, and that's fine, you know. And, you know, so any of your thoughts, if I could have those sometime within the next week, that would be helpful. You know, just send me an email, that's fine. And I think we've captured the essence of most of the advisory language in our notes and meeting minutes and so forth. So I think we already have that, you know, but if you have any further, I mean, Dan expanded, you know, his thoughts on some, which was helpful. So if you have anything like that, that would be good.
Do we have anything there specifying policy and changes in policy could strengthen the board's?
I mean, like selectmen's policy that they make?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we have, we didn't.
Isn't that the essence of an advisory
Well, right,
position?
Right.
that, yes, it is, but, yes, it could be, it could be. I mean, an advisory in that sense could be suggestions that they modify their process a little bit. That wouldn't necessarily be policy, but it could be, you know, a policy suggestion, right, that they adopt a certain policy.
Well, I mean, their policies, how often do they go through them to renew them because of changes?
Well, we have a selectman sitting out there now, maybe we can ask
But
him.
do
Up to
they
them.
realize that might give them a little
Yeah.
bit more
They
strength
should
in there?
they should review their policies once a year. It's up to them, though.
Yeah, it is, really. They can review it every week, or they can do it never, you know,
Most of
somewhere in between.
Most of them continue to be appropriate. but-
Glenn, since you've been on the Board of Selectmen, what, a year and a half now? Have you done any formal policy reviews during that time?
Only in an abstract way.
But you haven't had a work session, for example? Okay, all right. Because that's probably what we're talking about, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Could that be a recommendation?
You can,
Yeah,
you know,
I
if you
think
want
so.
to,
No,
Yeah.
if you want to make that recommendation,
I think so.
I don't think we should make that recommendation.
Why?
Why?
It's up to the selectmen to decide how they're gonna run their meeting. They
That-
don't
well,
wanna,
that
they
is
don't wanna
true.
review policies, that's their prerogative.
Our charter was to review the
Charter.
charter.
Not
right.
sitting in on negotiations because they have not directed the town manager that that's what they're going to do. Why is that different? Your position.
I think because because the policies of the Board of Selectmen is a document that the board uses to manage itself,
Okay,
not attending,
what's wrong
not
with
attending a
changing that
meeting.
document?
Which
What's wrong with what's wrong
No,
with
I
adding to it?
I think the selectmen should review their policies
Yes.
once a year, but I don't think it's our prerogative to tell them.
I think it's something that could be brought up that raises awareness that should,
You could make a suggestion of that in the context of what we talked about, improving communications and interaction. You could do it that way. There's a way to do it without, I mean, I get what Dave is saying. You know, we shouldn't be in a position of telling the selectmen, hey,
No, no,
you
no.
need to review your policies every 6 months. That's not appropriate for us to do.
No.
But we could make a suggestion that, you know, says, that kind of suggests to them that if they were a little bit more aware of what they can do to manage situations through policy directives. I think that's what we were talking about. I think the discussion we had in a couple of our meetings was we weren't really sure whether the selectmen understood the full scope of their power, which is to manage through policy directives. And I think that's really what the essence of the discussion was, you know. I think that's what you're talking about,
Yes.
isn't it? Okay, all right. All right, so that's something that addresses somewhat what you were talking about, and I think, you know, we could do that as part of the advisory process. So, anything else? Okay, if we don't have anything else, take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, now I have more work to do.